Hey, it's MikeMoore. Today I'm going to tell a story about past Mike. When I was growing up, after I graduated grade 8, something happened in the family that forced me to move to another town. This town was an hour and a half away, and obviously I didn't know anybody there because I was in a new school. So going into my first year of high school, I didn't know anybody, and I needed something that would occupy me. At the time I was playing RuneScape a little bit, so I had that, but I wanted to do something outside because I didn't want to stay inside all day. This town had a lot of hills in it, so I started biking, and the old bike that I had was just this old, roughed up, green, faded, terrible piece of metal that only had one working gear, and the one working gear was the highest possible gear it could have, and it was a 21 speed bike, so needless to say, the highest gear made you go really fast. So when I was going down these hills, I'd usually go really fast because I didn't have any other option. I couldn't switch down to a lower gear because the chain would fall off the bike, which is super dangerous, but you work with what you've got. So one of these hills was actually outside of the high school, so I would bike to school every day with my shitty bike, and I would go down this hill, and right around the corner from the hill was the school, so I'd just stop after getting down the hill and walk into the school, lock my bike up on the bike rack. On the side of this road I was going down was somebody's house, and this person that lived in this house started calling me Speed Machine because every time I'd go by him I'd be going at like an obnoxiously high speed. So and obviously since it's an old bike, it makes a lot of sound. It made like this horrible whirring sound as I was going down the hill. So he would call me Speed Machine every time I went by him because he'd always stand outside his house with a couple of friends before school. And eventually I started calling him Mongoose because for some reason I was that kid. I was an annoying kid. So the first thing that came to my head was Mongoose. And I started, every time he'd call me Speed Machine, I would call him Mongoose. And this went on for about 2 weeks until eventually I decided, hey, I should probably like talk to this kid that's calling me Speed Machine and I'm calling him Mongoose, because we started doing it like in the halls, right? But we still had no idea who each other were. So when I was going home one day, he was standing outside, and I decided to not bike past him, but instead bike up to him and have a conversation with him. So him and I, of course, became friends through name calling. So he was my first friend in that town. Obviously, this led to me having more than one friend because he would stand outside with his friends, so I became friends with all of them. But this group of friends was kind of like the emo group in the town. So obviously, young, impressionable past Mike also became an emo kid, and I got really fucking depressed. I was not a fun kid. Like, prior to moving into high school, I was really, really obnoxious and annoying, and like, I don't know how I transitioned from being like this loud, obnoxious. Okay, let me put it in perspective. I'm derailing here, but it's fine. When I was trying to go over to my friends' houses in public school, my friends' parents didn't want me to come over because I was really loud, and since I was so hyper, my hyperness would like spread to them, and they would start being loud. So the house was just like a screaming match. It was awful, right? Like it's fucking. I think back on it, I'm like, oh man, if I was near that kid right now, I'd probably punch him because he was so loud. And I don't know, it was bad. I regret being past Mike, but past Mike like to current Mike, and current Mike is probably okay, so we're gonna deal with it. But anyway, back to Newtown in high school. I somehow transitioned from this really hyper, loud, annoying kid to this really depressed, long-haired emo kid. And this was also the first time my mom let me grow my hair out. I wanted to grow my hair out like all of my childhood, but my mom was like, "No, you've got to keep it short. You can't not cut your hair. You'll be a hippie." So obviously in high school I became a hippie, and the high school equivalent of a hippie, which is an emo. But anyway, I grew my hair out and I got the emo haircut. I don't know if I want to show you a picture. It's pretty cringy. But anyway, I became friends with the emo kids, and that went on my entire time living in this town, which was only 2 years. I only stayed there until the beginning of grade 11, and then I moved back to the other town that I lived in. So if I had have stayed in the old town where I went to public school, I would have gone to this high school that I started going to in grade 11. So all my friends that I had in public school, I reacquainted myself with them in grade 11, so just 2 years of not knowing each other just completely cut off communications, right? Like, there were a couple times when I was in grade 9 that I had them over, but it's an hour and a half drive. It's a pain in the ass, and the parents don't want to do it, and fuck, I wouldn't want to do it. But we lost contact, so we re-became friends in grade 11, and that was good. some of the friends that I had from public school were like totally different after these 2 years, which was really weird. And I didn't really stay friends with them. You know, we didn't hate each other or anything, but we just didn't hang out with each other. But it's weird how much somebody can change in 2 years, and it kind of makes me wonder what kind of person I would have been if I had have just stayed in that school. Like, I was kind of the alternative kid when I got to that school. I was like the art student. I hung out in the art room at lunch instead of going to the cafeteria because I didn't want to deal with the loud noises and all the people. And like, I wasn't the only one that did this. There was other people that stayed in there too. And I took programming classes and that kind of thing. I was just like, I was a pretty quiet kid. One of the fun things I did in high school though was I put Bristol board all over the inside of my locker. So when I opened my locker up, you could just draw on it with Sharpie, and I had like this big pocket of Sharpies on the side of my locker. And my locker was right beside the art room. So the art kids would come out, and of course I'd be friends with them because I hang out there at lunchtime. And they'd come out and start drawing on my locker with Sharpie, and it was amazing. Yeah, it was really fun. That was fun. But I kept my emo hair all the way through that school. I've been told that there was some kind of emo exodus prior to me coming into the school, like in my grade 10. So when I came to the school, I was like the only kid with long emo like hair. And I was also friends with like in public school I had a friend that was a grade higher than me, and he ended up becoming like a sports player. He played a lot of rugby, and he was like the biggest kid in school, and by big I mean like muscly, not fat. So since he was the biggest kid in school, I was like best friends with him, so I'd hang out around him all the time. And I guess the people that bullied all the emo kids prior to me coming in there didn't want to bully me because I was hanging around this guy all the time, which is kind of awesome. But he was also friends with like all the other rugby players, right? So I like this little tiny emo kid. I'm super skinny, by the way, hanging around all these like people that are a grade higher than me and like muscly and play sports. I'm like the most out of place thing ever, but you know, we got along, so it was all right. You know, all my other friends that I knew from public school, they all became super preppy with the exception of the one guy that played rugby and another friend. So that was really strange. I still talk to those two that didn't become super preppy. 5 years later, I think. I'm 23 now. Yeah, so I kind of broke off contact with everybody else. You know, I totally forget where I was going with this story. I actually, I had a little script written out, and I was going to, basically the script covers up until, I became friends with the emo kid through name calling, and then it's just kind of tapered off, and I just started rambling, which is good. Rambling is alright, you know, Vsauce does it, so... Scripted rambling, though, it's probably better than what I'm doing. Anyway, so yeah, I became friends with the art students, and I stayed friends with the rugby player and one other guy, and that's pretty much all I had to tell for this story. There's tons of other stories I could tell about high school, but I don't think I will because this could go on for hours. Anyway, to wrap things up, I'm no longer an emo kid, but I still have long hair, and I still like to bike a lot, but I don't have the same bike anymore. That bike fell apart. Oh god, did it ever fall apart. I've got a new bike now. Actually, I need to take that bike in for a tune-up. I haven't done that in 2 years, and it's getting kind of clanky. But yeah, leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment if you want to talk to me about something. Maybe you could give me some input on what I should talk about next. I've been hearing about this guy that started a coleslaw review page, and I think that's amazing, because coleslaw is great, and he's like, oh, salad is good, but coleslaw is so underrated, you know. Coleslaw is like salad gold, and he is like super passionate about coleslaw, and I just kind of want to talk about it. I got another weapon that I'm working on for Fallout 4. Yeah, a model of like something that's going to be kind of like brass knuckles. You know, you'll put it on your hands and you'll attack people with it like punching style. But it's going to be energy based, so you can have like institute laser damage, or you can have normal laser damage, or you can have plasma. And, you know, I'm working on that right now, so that's going to be cool. And I'm also going to start working on legendary variants of all my weapons and making little locations for them in the wasteland. So that'll be cool too. With that said, I'm pretty sure I'm done here. So thanks for watching. I do appreciate your time, and I hope you appreciate my time. Have a good one.